Welcome back to our daily events coverage on CNN 10. I'm Carl Azus. Thank you for taking 10 minutes for our show. An island country in the Indian Ocean is the scene of today's first story. The nation of Sri Lanka is reeling from a series of terrorist attacks that targeted churches and hotels on Easter Sunday. At least 290 people were killed and 500 or more were injured when the coordinated attacks took place. Most of them happened in the same time frame. Between 8:45 and 9:30 on Sunday morning, suicide bombers detonated their explosives at 3 churches across the country. At around the same time, more explosions took place at 3 luxury hotels in the Sri Lankan capital of Colombo, and later on Sunday there was a blast at a hotel near a zoo, and a final explosion happened in a private house as police were raiding it in connection with the previous attacks. Officials don't know yet why Christians were targeted. Easter is their most important holiday, but Christians are a religious minority in Sri Lanka. They account for about 7.5% of the population. Buddhists make up 70%, Hindus make up 12.5%, and Muslims make up a little under 10%. The Sri Lankan government says it's concerned that an international terrorist group is behind the assaults. When we produced this show, no organization had admitted carrying them out, but a Sri Lankan government spokesman says there were warnings days before the attacks that something was going to happen, and the government admitted yesterday that it failed to act on those warnings.
The Sri Lankan capital is on edge after a series of deadly terror attacks that ripped across parts of this country. This church, St. Anthony's Shrine, one of 3 Catholic churches targeted on Easter Sunday. You can still see shattered glass here, and the clock tower frozen at roughly the time when a suicide bomber attacked during Easter Sunday prayers. And in the 24 hours since, the authorities are not taking any chances. Look just down this road here, you can see the remains of a suspicious vehicle that an explosives disposal team detonated on Monday afternoon, sending real fear through an already traumatized community. This has been a series of deadly attacks, hundreds of people killed and wounded. There has been criticism that the security forces missed a warning from a foreign intelligence agency about threats of suicide attacks against Catholic churches, prompting one government minister to accuse some of these security chiefs of incompetence and negligence, and also prompting a government spokesperson to publicly apologize for letting this potentially crucial bit of intelligence slip through the authorities' fingers. In the meantime, there has been no official claim of responsibility, and some of the victims are still fighting for their lives in the intensive care units of Sri Lankan hospitals.
Some leading U.S. lawmakers spent Monday reviewing the Mueller report we mentioned last week, the results of a special investigation led by former FBI Director Robert Mueller. The full report was released to Congress on Thursday, but it had some redactions, some edits, and a less edited version was given to House and Senate leaders yesterday. One main focus of the report concerned Russia. Did the campaign of U.S. President Donald Trump illegally coordinate with the other country to win the election? The report said no, that the Trump campaign did not collude with the Russian government. Another part of the report concerned the U.S. leaders' actions. Did President Trump illegally interfere with the Mueller investigation and commit the crime of obstruction of justice? The report was more vague on that. Investigators said they couldn't conclude for sure that the president committed a crime, but that they also couldn't conclude for sure that he didn't. It suggested that Congress could make its own investigation into that. How politicians reacted to all this mainly depended on what political party they're in. President Trump and other Republicans say the report vindicates the president, that he didn't illegally cooperate with Russia, and that it's time to move on. Democrats have said they need to see the full Mueller report without redactions, and that Congress now needs to investigate whether the president committed obstruction of justice. We don't know yet what the next steps will be in all this, but we'll keep you updated. second trivia. Which of these U.S. cities is located the farthest west? San Diego, California, Los Angeles, California, San Francisco, California, or Seattle, Washington? At 122.4 degrees west, just a tiny bit farther than Seattle, is San Francisco, California. Known as the city by the bay, San Francisco attracts tens of millions of people every year. That makes tourism the city's biggest industry. That industry is facing a number of challenges. Homelessness is rampant throughout San Francisco. So is drug use and the presence of drug materials. Many of the people who've traveled there in recent years have complained of feeling unsafe. Still, tourism brings billions of dollars into the city every year. People marvel at the Golden Gate Bridge. They imagine what it'd be like to try to escape from Alcatraz. And some of the braver drivers test their skills on Lombard Street. A stretch of it has a 27-degree grade with sharp curves because paving it straight up and down in 1922 would have made it too steep for the cars of that era to climb. Lombard Street has another problem today, though: the sheer number of people who want to visit it.
From Drone View 7, it's easy to see why the crooked street attracts huge crowds of tourists. But from the ground, residents have a different perspective.
I moved here 22 years ago, and it was nothing like this then.
Greg Brundage says something has to be done to deal with the massive growth of tourists, especially over the past 10 years.
Selfies, oh my gosh, you know, that in itself is an issue.
We have to be acutely aware of how it impacts our residents.
Assemblyman Phil Ting's solution: setting up a reservation system and charging visitors $5 to drive the crooked road.
This is how it works. You would register online, pick a day and time to visit. When your number is called,
a license plate reader would verify it's your time and then enjoy the ride.
Watch out, smart,
The city has tried to fix the problem in the past with new signs and traffic control, but they say nothing's worked.
They have been unable to properly manage the crowds with the rapid growth of visitors.
If you've come this far, then what's $5?
But Audrey Filo, who's visiting with friends from Brazil, doesn't like the idea. He says tourists shouldn't be paying for the city's problem.
I think this is a touristy thing, so we should not pay for it. Like, we're here to appreciate it and enjoy your time here.
This probably isn't what most people think of when we say robots pulling a truck. But if you remember the four-legged creature-like Boston Dynamics robots, and you pictured 10 of them marching in unison while dragging something heavy, like some robotic sled dog army, then maybe you did have this in mind. Not everyone who saw this YouTube video was comfortable with it. Some call the fear of robots technophobia, some say it's robophobia. For anyone uneasy with the sight, it certainly instills some kind of phobia. The company says its robot dogs will be available soon, and wherever they're trucked in, whether they're transferred, road-trained, semi-autonomously wheeled somewhere, or if they have to be big-rigged up to something in tow, they could make a haul as long as nobody's dogged by the idea. I'm Carl Azus, over and out for CNN.